Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of beloved Bhagwan. Dearest Swami, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, let me begin my talk by expressing my heartfelt gratitude for this beautiful opportunity to be present amidst your midst, amidst all of you. Though in a virtual manner, it is still wonderful because let me just shift to a view where I can see all of you. Wonderful. Yes. So it's so beautiful and happy that we get a chance to do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, which is following his footsteps. That's how Swami defined Padasevanam as. So we do Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, which is singing his glory, listening to his glory, and thinking of his glory, so that we can follow in his footsteps. We can walk by his side. As Swami would say, don't walk in front of me, you're not capable of leading me. Don't walk behind me, you may not be able to follow me. Walk by my side and be my friend. And it is so beautiful that we all gather with the sole purpose of focusing on Swami, building our yearning for him, our intensity for him, because nothing else in life, dear brothers and sisters, I repeat, nothing else in life matters. At best, anything else is a distraction. At best. At worst, it's not needed at all. So, beginning again by offering humble gratitude and loving sairams to all of you. Let me begin by an incident that I got to know very recently. This is related to how the Sri Sathya Sai International Organization started in Hong Kong. It all began through bhajans, and then an amazing incident happened. And this amazing incident is related to a storm that came and shook Hong Kong in the year 1976 during the monsoons. A storm, a huge storm hit Hong Kong. It was called Storm Violet. It would possibly be better to call it as Storm Violent because that was the impact that it had. In fact, two, three people lost their lives also in that storm. During that storm, there was this devotee lady. She had heard about Swami. She had not yet made a trip to India to see Swami. Her name, her name, Miss Miss Madhu Hardasani. Her name was Madhu Hardasani, and she was yearning for a picture of Swami. She wanted to have a photo of Swami by her side with her, like how I have here, like how I'm sure all of you have with you. So she was also yearning that I want a picture of Bhagwan, but this was 1976. And in 1976, it wasn't easy to get photographs of Swami. So as this storm Violet hit Hong Kong, she, like all the others, locked her doors and kept safe within indoors. And as the storm passed by and she opens her door, what does she find? The storm had brought a picture of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai to her doorstep and had placed in a bamboo rack that was there just outside her house that photo of Swami, you know. And she was so thrilled. And in fact, she began the Balvikas classes in Hong Kong and it has grown and to what it is today. But even as I read this incident, I read this just about 12 hours before. And I felt that this is Swami giving me content for my topic. Because, whenever we face storms in our life, we get upset, we get frustrated, we get worried, we get irritated, we wonder whether God has left us. What we don't realize is, even in these storms, Swami comes to us. Swami uses these storms to come to us and establish deep seated faith and love in our hearts. As I say this, I'm reminded of the fantastic, fascinating, mind boggling I don't know what other adjectives to use, that kind of an experience of a Sai brother whose name is Kumar, who was a student of the Sri Satsai Institute of Higher Learning in the 80s. His experience is simply stunning, mind blowing, and I always enjoy narrating it, and that's what I shall do now as well. Let's travel back in time to the 9th of December 1986. All the boys in the hostel were getting ready to go to almost like preparing like a Formula One race driver. You want to rush quickly and get into the front spots in the mandir so that when Swami comes, you can interact with him, talk to him, give a letter to him possibly. Swami always says that dearness is more important than nearness. But try telling it to any of the devotees or students who would run for darshan. Yeah, dearness is important, but we want nearness as well, because nearness to him is so sweet, so beautiful, so addictive. You can imagine just listening to his stories, we feel such joy and love in our heart. How it must be to, be in the physical presence. So yes, Swami, we agree that dearness and having you in the heart is more important. But Swami, we long for the nearness as well. We miss that physical nearness, Swami, and we know that you're capable of granting that to us. So we will never give up hope. We will wait, and we will wait like Shabari waited for you to come to our doorstep. Yes, so as I was narrating, it's like a Formula One race, and everybody rushes, and Kumar too was among the students who were rushing. In fact, we would rush to the mandir and just throw our slippers, just throw them and run into the mandir. And that is the reason we would all buy very inexpensive slippers, because these slippers would often get lost after a darshan session. And in fact, I have also seen certain devotees getting a lock and key and putting and protecting their slipper by tying it to a tree. Well, so much of attention we take for our souls many times, but we neglect our souls. That is the sad condition of humanity today. Anyway, as they were all rushing that day, Kumar saw something that got him a little worried. Swami, in fact, had blessed his parents with a room right next to the present day Sai Kulwant Hall. Back then, there was no Sai Kulwant Hall. East Prashanti A1, the first room in the first building that you come as you're entering and going towards the mandir. So that was a room that Swami had blessed his parents with. They were staying there, a small room. That day, Kumar saw his father standing very, very, very pensive, worried, and tense outside the house door. And he saw that there were a lot of footwear there. Something must have happened wrong. So instead of going left into the mandir, he took a right and went into his home. And he saw his father and asked, Father, what happened? The father said, Kumar, Amma, Amma, mother, what happened to mother? And he entered to a scene which no son or daughter would love to or would even want in their most dreaded dreams to be in. His mother was lying on a bed, surrounded by all the top doctors of the general hospital. Back then, there was no super specialty hospital at Puttaparthi. It was only the general hospital, and all the who's who, including the head doctor, Dr. Chari, he was also there. What happened, doctor? Kumar, the pulse is very weak. At best, your mother has 15 to 20 minutes, that's all. What needs to be done? All that needs to be done has already been done, Kumar. I would suggest that you go the other side, sit for darshan and ask Swami. Now, Kumar himself was going through a difficult phase in his life. He was out of form. This is a term that students used to use when Swamis physical frame was there. In form and out of form. This is possibly a term that's borrowed from sports, where a player in form, like for me, cricket is a sport that is very dear or very close to my heart. So in cricket, when a batsman, a person who is batting and is in form, then he just can't do anything wrong. Even if he mistimes a shot, he doesn't hit the ball properly, the ball sails over the boundary and he scores a maximum 6 runs. But when a batsman is out of form, even when he plays a good stroke, he can get out. So these are the terms, and we use this even for the students. So basically, what is this? When a student is in form, like a batsman in form, he just cannot do anything wrong. Take a hypothetical situation where the students are rushing in for darshan. Swami is coming, so everybody is rushing. I before I became a student, I used to call the students as a herd of white buffaloes. Like when you look at the Serengeti plains in Africa, if a lion is chasing a herd of wild buffaloes, how they run, that is how they used to run. And I used to feel that this is the reason why Swami calls them Dunapotas. Dunapota in Telugu means buffalo, because exactly these are a herd of wild buffaloes. They come in at the last minute and come and occupy all the front seats, and 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 Swami goes and talks to them only. What about us who are sitting in a disciplined manner? If you can't beat them, join them. That's why I decided I'm going to become a student now. I am also going to become a white buffalo in this herd of white buffaloes, so that I too can get proximity with Bhagavan. Anyway, so this is how, so when I'm saying form, when they rush in like that, there are some elderly devotees who are walking there, and suppose this student is out of form. When Swami comes, Swami will come and scold the student. He will just blast him out of shape. He will tell him, Buddhi ledu, no brain. Elderly people are walking there. You're rushing in like some dog, some pig, some buffalo over here. What if you had hit one of those people and they had fallen? They would have broken their bones. No common sense, nothing. Indiscipline. This is what will happen if you're out of form. If you're in form, Swami will not even tell about anything about that. Swami will just come and talk normally as if everything is normal. In case there is somebody who tells Swami also, Swami, I think we should tell the students to come in little slowly. Elderly people are walking, by chance something happens. So if they try to give this advice to Swami, Swami will defend that boy. Swami will say, in the world you find young girls and boys of this age running behind movie stars, running behind sports stars, running behind other things. Do you see them running behind God? These youngsters are running behind God. We should encourage them. So that is what will happen when you are in form. So Kumar was in a very funny state. I said in the beginning that he was out of form. He was not out of form, because even in out of form, Swami comes and deems you fit to receive his scoldings. Swami, Kumar was in a state possibly which we can call as deformed, where you are ignored. And that is the worst kind of treatment, the silent treatment. Swami doesn't praise you, it's okay. At least Swami scolds you that karma is burnt, it's done. He's at least talking to you, man. When God speaks to you, it is such a magnificent feeling. The first time Swami spoke to me, he called me mental hospital, and I celebrated because it doesn't matter what he calls you. He spoke to you, right? That's enough. Swami would look at a plus-sized person and say, "Hey, pakoda." Pakoda is an Indian fried savory, which is like a ball it is, and because it has oil and fats. So pakoda is a way you actually tease somebody who is fat. But when Swami calls somebody pakoda, they feel so proud. In fact, I heard a devotee mention in a talk, "I am Swami's pakoda." I was like, "You're taking pride in that?" Yes. But you and me go and call that person a pakoda. He will smash the nose and make it a bhaji. Bhaji is a flat thing. He will just smash our nose. Why? Because when Swami's words, Swami's actions, Swami's thoughts, everything is saturated with the sweetness of love. The Madhurashtakam says, Adharam madhuram nayanam madhuram vadanam madhuram hasitam Madhuram. It sings of Krishna. His eyes are sweet, his lips are sweet, his nose is sweet, his hairs are sweet. That whole Madhurashtakam has 8 stanzas which describes everything about Krishna which is sweet. Same thing about Swami, everything about Swami is sweet. His every word is sweet. If he calls you buffalo, you feel joy. So, so even if Swami scolds, it doesn't matter. Out of form is also preferred, not deformed. Not deformed. But Swami would say when you get deformed, it's because he wants to see you reformed. That is for that. Swami would say that when a stretch of road, a highway is being repaired, I will not use that to travel. It's not because I don't like the highway. It's because I don't want to impede the repair works going on. I want the repair to go on faster so that I can use that road once again. So, so all this is good in retrospect, but when you're going through, it's terrible. It's terrible. You feel like digging a hole in earth and burying yourself there. Like Swami is not looking at me. What is the use of anything? And Kumar was in that state. I had to give this elaborate explanation so that you understand how he would have felt when the doctor told him, "Go and tell Swami that is the only hope." He immediately realized that I am now getting the silent treatment from Swami. Where will Swami speak to me? So he told Dr. Chari, Doctor, why, and Dr. Chari had a prominent place to sit in the veranda because, he's a doctor. He would have had multiple emergencies or important patients to talk about. So Swami had given him that access. You sit in the front, anything you can tell me. So Kumar requested, he said, Doctor, can you sit in the front and tell Swami this is the condition? The doctor said, okay, Kumar, I will do that. You also try. Let's see whatever happens. So with that, with those prayers, both of them left the home. The timer was ticking, just 15 minutes. Kumar went straight into the bhajan hall. He was a bhajan singer, a very good singer at that. And he has composed bhajans as well. And he went and he told his other brothers in the bhajan group his situation and requested for the front seat. So yes, he sat there. And there were many occasions when what I forgot to mention here is by the time Kumar and the students had arrived to the mandir, Swami had already completed his darshan rounds and taken devotees for interview. So that is the reason Kumar went into his home. There was no use of going into the darshan grounds immediately because darshan was anyway complete. So now the next opportunity he would get to speak to Swami was bhajan time. So he thought I'll wait, and he hoped that Swami would complete the interviews earlier and come out a bit early for bhajans because Swami would come and sit in the bhajan hall, and if bhajans have not yet begun, the bhajan boys, the bhajan singers would have a chance to speak to Swami. Dear brothers and sisters, with Swami, whether it's a bhajan singer, a speaker, a drama actor, anybody, everybody honed and built their skills for the only worthwhile thing in the universe, to make Swami happy, to get closer to him. Swami's physical form might not be with us today, but I think that this motivation should never change. Whatever we earn in our life, our skill, our talent, our wealth, our influence, whatever it is, let us use all of that to get closer to Swami. And let us never use it in the other way. It's a sin. Let us never use our proximity to Swami to earn these all other things. Money, wealth, fame, name. No. Use all money, wealth, fame, name to get closer to Swami. So Kumar was a singer, as I said. He sat in the front and he asked whether he could sing the second bhajan itself, because the first bhajan is Ganesha bhajan. He had a bhajan in his mind which he thought he would sing for Swami. So he was given the second bhajan and he just waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes passed. And then Kumar realized that the time that the doctor had given was over. Already his mother's pulse had been extremely weak. There's no way she would be alive. In fact, when after 15 minutes, 20 minutes passed in the clock, and Swami didn't open that interview room door. Kumar's eyes were just focused on the interview room door. Sitting in the front of the bhajan hall, you could actually look at the interview room door. He was just hoping that the handle would go down and it would open, but it didn't. We feel this, right? In the biggest storms of our life, we feel that Swami is not coming to us. Swami, when I didn't have much of a problem, you came to me, you came in my dream, you answered me, you solved. Now, Swami, when I'm having the toughest time of my life, why you don't come? Swami says, love my uncertainty. This is the reason we hate your uncertainty, Swami. Because when we need it the most, you don't come. When we don't need it so much, you come. We ask for small things, you grant it. When really I need you, Swami, where are you? Kumar gave up. Kumar now began to think of what all needs to be done to arrange for the funeral, where to procure the firewood from, and what all needs to be done, because in 1986, all these facilities were not available like that in Puttaparthi. And then Kumar also thought whom all he has to invite. And he was thinking nobody in his family had actually come to Swami. He had been telling, his parents also would tell the relatives that you should come. Finally, they would be coming, but what an occasion. They're coming to attend his mother's funeral and then they will have darshan of Swami. He just wished that he could have brought them in better circumstances, better scenario. But it is what it is. So he made all these plans. Half an hour passed and the bhajan also began. The Omkaram began. Swami had not come out. The Ganesh bhajan was going on. And towards the end of the Ganesh bhajan, the door opened. Swami came out, walked out. As Swami walked out, Dr. Chari, who was seated there, got up and went to Swami. And Kumar was happy that this doctor had taken the courage to get up and walk to Swami. But Swami seemed to dismiss him, just heard him and, okay, sit. Sent him away. Oh, okay. So the doctor just went back and sat. What can he do now? Swami now walks in and sits on the throne in the bhajan hall. And Kumar is desperately trying to catch Swami's eye. But you know what? Swami is avoiding him. And Kumar is wondering, Swami, every day you avoid me, it's okay, Swami. Today don't avoid me. Today, Swami, I'm in a situation where only you can help me, Swami. You punish me with your silence for how much ever time you want any other day. Not today, Swami. And just like, you can empathize, right? Tears are flowing down his eyes. But the hard-hearted Lord is not looking at him. And Swami is just sitting there, avoiding even looking at Kumar. And then, as the first bhajan concluded, Kumar started. He started his bhajan, which has the alap, Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva, Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, Tvameva sarvam mamadeva deva. Oh Swami, you're my mother, you're my father, you're my friend, you're my everything, Swami. And then the bhajan, Sai Pitar Mata Sai Deen Dayala Data Sai Sai Pitar Mata Sai. Kumar was choking with emotion. His mother is gone. His divine mother is not looking at him. Where do you go to? Reminds me of a story that I had heard, when Lord Sri Rama was standing once under the bottom tip of his bow. One of the teachers had narrated this story to me. Under the bottom tip of his bow was blood because he had placed his bow on a frog. That frog was bleeding from its leg and bearing that agony and pain in silence. Lakshmana notices this and says, "Hey frog, why you didn't even scream out?" And the frog says, whenever I'm in trouble, I say Rama, Rama. Now, when Rama himself has put the bow on me, whom do I call out to? I have nobody. That was Kumar's situation. Sai Guru Sai Sakha Sahodar. That is the line where you start building up crescendo and call out to Swami. And even as Kumar begins this, what does Swami do? Swami doesn't even look at him, gets up and walks out of the bhajan hall. Walks out of the bhajan hall and Kumar just collapses. He just collapses. He's unable to, he has to sing the bhajan, but somehow he continues to sing. Just imagine, he's wondering, Swami, you're not even looking at when you're getting out and walking out on me, Swami. If you walk out on me, what will happen to me, Swami? You don't walk out on me. That's it. He completes the bhajan somehow. And he tells that he doesn't want to sing anymore. Swami, if you're going to leave, if you're going to walk out because I'm singing, then I won't sing, Swami. So usually all these singers, they sing well. All these singers who sing well, they repeat for a second bhajan as well. So Kumar also had his second bhajan scheduled, but he said, no, I don't want to sing. And within moments of him completing his bhajan, Swami comes back. Swami also, no, are, wow, wow, wow. I'm getting emotional because I'm narrating the story from Kumar's perspective. But Swami also, like, he is a Jagannataka Sutradhari. He's a divine director. He just walks back in. Just walks back and sits and continues. Nothing. Many times Swami says, God's heart is like butter, a little warmth of your love and it'll melt. These storms in life, when we wonder whether God's heart is existent or not. Is it at least made of stone? Because even stone possibly can be melted like lava. But Lord, your heart doesn't seem to melt at all. The bhajans concluded. Swami received Aarti and he left. Kumar got up from his seat, walked out of the bhajan hall. And everybody, Kumar, Kumar, Kumar. I know. I don't want, I already know all this. All this Kumar is thinking. When I was coming for darshan itself, I knew. You all rushed in to occupy places in the front. I know I don't need to listen. He just ran towards his home because he knew what would have happened. And he was right. The scene that he saw, at a distance, there are 4 volunteers rushing with the mother on the stretcher. They're walking and trying to go towards a vehicle. They're headed towards the general hospital. His father has come out of the house, full face flooded with tears. Kumar, Kumar, he's telling Kumar's name. He's unable to lock the house. Kumar just goes and says, Dad, I know, father. You go now. I'll lock and come. So the father just gives the key in Kumar's hand and he runs. Kumar doesn't lock the house. He opens it and goes in. He just looks at that small space that Swami had given to his parents. And he realizes that it's never going to be the same anymore. It's never going to be the same. He goes to the bed where his mother was lying, falls on his knees and weeps his heart out. Because, once he gets back to the hospital, he needs to be strong. He needs to support his father. He cries, weeps, gets up, then walks out, locks the door, wipes his tears, heads towards the general hospital. And at the general hospital, there's a volunteer standing at the gate, the guarding the hospital. And he tells, the lady, they brought on a stretcher. And that person possibly didn't know the language. He said, up. And Kumar says, yes. Yes, I know she has gone up. But let me go there then. So he rushes to the crematorium. Now when he reaches the crematorium, he's in for a shock. He's seeing that there's nobody there at the crematorium. What happened? He goes back to the guard and he says, where is she? The guard again says, up. He says, I know she passed away, but she's not at the crematorium. Then that person says, no. They took her up in the hospital to the ICU. ICU? He goes up. He climbs the stairs, goes to the room where his mother's body is supposedly kept. Out comes his father, tears filling his eyes. But something is not matching because the father is not having a sorrowful face. His face is filled with tears, but there's a beaming smile. He says, Kumar comes and embraces his son. What happened? What happened? He said, Swami has brought back your mother to life. Kumar is totally befuddled. In fact, a few days later, in a private session in the bhajan hall to the teachers and students, Swami himself narrated what had happened. See, I was crying when I was narrating Kumar's perspective, right? Even as I think of Swami's perspective, I get tears because that is a love of the Lord. Swami said, this boy, with all his feeling, he's asking, praying for his mother and telling Sai, Mata, Pita, how can I sit there? I couldn't sit. I had decided that his mother will not go. But hearing him sing like that, I couldn't even sit. What did Swami do? Swami got up from his chair, walked straight out, walked straight into his home and asked, what is the ruckus happening over here? And the father went and said, Swami, she's gone. The ECG machine had flatlined there. She was gone. The doctors stood with their heads bent. Swami said, where did she go? Sitama? Swami said, get me a glass of water with a spoon. It is tradition when a person passes away here in India, they pour a spoon of water in the mouth, a second spoon and a third spoon. This water doesn't go in, it just comes out because the person is gone, right? It's just the body there. 3 times when that water comes out, it's conclusive evidence that the person is gone. It's considered that the person is gone. So Swami poured the first spoon of water, it came out. He's poured the second spoon of water, it came out. And he picked up the third spoon of water to pour. And this would be conclusion that she's gone. That is when the father held Swami's hand and said, no, Swami, no. No, Swami, no. Swami said, hey, fool, you let go of my hand, foolish fellow. Swami pours in the third spoon. It goes in. It goes in. She opens her eyes. The heartbeat is back. Heartbeat is back. And Swami tells Sitama, they're telling that you went. Where you went? She closes her eyes. She folds her hands. Not close her eyes. She opens her eyes, folds her hands. She's so thrilled to have Swami's darshan. Swami now looks at the doctors and said, I have done what I needed to do. Now you go and do what you need to do. And the doctors. That is what had happened. And Swami had walked back. In the meanwhile, they had summoned people, a stretcher had been brought, all that. And what Kumar saw and thought that all this is gone was actually a misunderstanding. Because we are disappointed, we are despondent, we are dejected during the storms of our life. We fail to see the miracle that the Lord is working. That is why we hate his uncertainty, because we become blind, we become deaf, we become mute to the love and grace and blessings he's pouring on us through those storms. If only we are able to keep our eyes and ears and hearts open, we will realize that each and everything that Swami does is for our good. We may say, yes, in this case, Swami resurrected Kumar's mother. What if he hadn't? Why did he resurrect Kumar's mother? For everyone's good. If he didn't, that also would be for everyone's good. That's all. Because Swami is love. Swami is selflessness. From the tip of his hair to the tip of his toe, Swami would say there isn't an iota of selfishness. And that powerful Swami, that loving Swami, is in action even to this day. Even to this very day. Yes, accidents, misfortunes continue to happen. No, just today, before this talk, I had been to the police station here. Why? Because just as after a long time, for the first time in my life, with prayers to Bhagwan and with great joy and pride in my heart, I purchased a medium-sized car and took it to Ganesh temple, got puja done, and then decided yesterday that I would go to Puttaparthi. On the way to Puttaparthi, as I'm stationary in one place, a biker comes and rams into the car. Extensive damage to the car. His bike is totaled. And yes, he was from a lower strata of society. So, lower economic group, I mean. So, yeah, I went and admitted him in the hospital, paid for his treatment, whatever I could. And I go back to my past, look at experiences in my life. And I can tell with complete conviction that even in the worst possible times, Swami has been there. And it's all with a reason. Everything is with a reason. I'm saying this because, yes, I got to know the personal aggrievement that brother Harish went through. He lost his mother, great lady. My prayers, I mean, she doesn't need our prayers because her life is sanctified and blessed, serving Swami, molding so many Balvika's children, and she has fed Swami many times. Blessed is her life. She is definitely at the lotus feet. We pray and remember her so that we get inspired and we be like her. But yes, it happens. Brother Harish had that, I had this. I'm sure each and every one of us faces storms in our life. But my only prayer to Swami, Swami, at such time, let me not forget how loving you are, Swami. Swami can't bear to see a tear in our eyes, unless it's a tear of joy. If whatever pain we feel, he feels it 100 times. Let us remember that. If I'm feeling one pin pricking me, he's feeling 100 pins pricking him. When I feel a little sliver of joy, he feels so happy. That's why he says, bliss is my food. Love is my form. Truth is my breath. Bliss is my food. You want to feed me? Give me your bliss, your happiness. And our happiness gets dented most in these times of storms. I think I have time for about another 20 minutes. So I will quickly recollect another personal storm. Again, this is a health related incident only, but it's so beautiful. In a few days from now, in the September of 2022, my father will be turning 70. And even as he turns 70, we want to conduct what is called the Bhimaratha Shanti. It's a beautiful ceremony that is done. The Bharatiya tradition, the Sanatana Dharma, has some beautiful traditions. Once you reach the age of 60, it's called the Shashtabdi Purti, the completion of 60, when husband and wife decide that we are now together as a couple to walk the spiritual path, no longer the material path. That is, the Vanaprastha ashram they would call in our scriptures. And then when you reach 70, you have the Bhimaratha Shanti. When you reach 80, you have the Sahasra Purna Chandra Darshanam. Sahasra Purna Chandra Darshanam meaning you have witnessed 1,000 full moons in your lifetime. Because a full moon comes once in 28 days. So witnessing 1,000 full moons is not a mean achievement. It's a big achievement. So like these, we celebrate in spiritual terms. And even as we are going to celebrate this, my mind goes back to 12 years earlier when my father should have possibly departed the face of the earth. That was another storm when it looked like everything is gone, but Swami's grace came through. I know that I've already given away the climax, but but the story, it was. Let me try to remember. It was yes, the 1st of October 2009. I got a phone call. I was in Prashantinilayam. I was at my office in Radio Sai, and I got a call from my dad, and he said, "Arvind, here, I'm Appa speaking." You know, Why would I know it's you speaking. That was not at all the way he would speak. There's no need for him to identify himself, but he seemed very flustered. He seemed a little worried. Then he said, "So today, when we were going to office in the car, I began to get a severe pain in my arm, and I began to sweat profusely. I felt dehydrated. I felt faint. I felt weak. I felt a pain in my chest." I said, "Dad, those are classic signs of a cardiac stroke." He said, "Yes, I think I had it. And right now I'm calling you from the Bombay hospital. They are advising me to take an angiogram, and possibly later after that, they will do surgery. I just thought I should inform you." When I heard this, I didn't know what to say. And then my father asked me, "What do you think I should do?" What do I think you should do? I don't know. My parents have always sought advice from them. I never thought a time will come when I have to give them advice. And what advice do I give? I just said, I just felt so scared. I felt so worried. I said, "Dad, come to Prashant Nilayam. You just come to Puttaparthi. Don't do anything anywhere. You come to Puttaparthi, come to Prashant Nilayam." When I said this, I did not think of the complications involved, because the doctors warned my father that he was in no situation to travel by flight. But because I said, my father, along with my mother, took a flight and landed up in Puttaparthi. And that happened in the late evening. Before that, I thought I will write a letter and give it to Swami. So I wrote a letter, and during darshan, I couldn't manage to give the letter to Swami. Those days, Swami would come for darshan in the Porte car, and there's a wheel. The front chair of the car itself would double up as a wheelchair. As Swami was returning back after the darshan and bhajan session, I decided that I won't be able to wait anymore. So I just got up and walked. I don't know if anybody had done such a thing before, but I got up and walked to Swami's car. And when Swami saw me, because they turned the wheelchair for it to go into the car, when Swami saw me, it was evident that he knew. He said, "Yes, give me the letter." I went and gave him the letter. It was from his body language, I knew that he knew. And yet I said, "Swami, father had a heart attack in Bombay." Swami said, "No, it's not a heart attack. It's just some, these are the moments when we forget who Swami is. I said, "Swami, no, Swami, the doctor said it's a heart attack. And I told my parents to come here. They're coming here." Swami said, "Ah, okay, chustamu." Chustamu means we'll see. Okay, it's fine. And I was hoping that he'll give me some vibhuti packet or something. In Swami's car, there would always be a basket filled with small vibhuti packets, so that if Swami wishes, he can give. But Swami didn't give me vibhuti packet. The door closed and Swami left. My parents came. I took a room for them in the ashram. They were staying there. The next day morning, we had darshan, and after darshan, I thought, okay, fine, it seems fine. But my father comes to me and he says, "I am feeling very, very weak. I felt very tired. My hand is aching." And he went to the room and just collapsed on the bed. Now, I grew tense. This was the 2nd of October. So I called for the ambulance, the super specialty hospital. Unlike the olden days, unlike Kumar's case, the super specialty hospital was there now. So the ambulance came and my father was rushed there. And when they did uh, the ECG, they said, "Yes, your father has had an angina, second heart attack today morning." Now I was like, "Oh my God, Swami said he didn't have heart attack. Now he's having a second heart attack. what is happening? What is happening? And I just couldn't believe that Swami is so casual about this. So I said, doctor, what do we do? He said, no, we have to do an angiogram, an angio, same thing what the doctors in Bombay said, to determine what it is. And later, if needed, we have to do the surgery. I said, yes, doctor, please proceed. And said, no, unfortunately, the cath lab, that device is not functioning. We had called for the engineer, but today is a holiday. That's when I realized that the 2nd of October in India is Gandhi Jayanti, the birthday of the father of the nation. And every year, actually, I rejoice, because that's a holiday you get. When I was a student, or even it's a national holiday. Everybody gets a holiday. So every year it's a happy situation, but not this time. I was like, father of the nation is taking away my father, like father of Aravind is Gandhi Jayanti. It's the birth of the father of the nation. And here my father is in a very critical situation. So I asked the doctor what to do. The doctor said, you can take your father to the Bangalore Super Speciality Hospital. But that journey in the car might be difficult for him. I didn't know what to do. I pulled out my phone and called Brother Satyajit. Brother Satyajit used to stay with Swami. He had been blessed to serve Swami from 1995 or 96, I think, till the day Swami left. He was Swami's trusted boy because once a boy, you're always a boy. He would be in Swami's room, and Swami had given the privilege to the staff members. We used to call ourselves as Sai Sanidhi. We had the privilege that anytime we have any problem, we could go and give a letter to Swami, and Satyajit would be the postman who would take our letters to Swami and come back. And Swami, look at that. That is the thing. We had a privilege that no president or prime minister on earth had, access to God. And that is what Swami gives if we decide to sacrifice and dedicate for him. We don't realize what we get because possibly we don't get the reward immediately. But Swami never forgets every little bit. In fact, on one occasion, Swami had told Sanjay Sahani sir that, why I ask my students to go out and do prasadam distribution? Because I don't know, otherwise they may not do any seva. But everybody in their life they will have those situations when they will need me. At that time, when they pray for me to come and help them, I will remember that they did this seva for me. And based on that, I will give them my grace. Yes, God also looks for what we have done. He looks for what we have done before he can shower his grace on us. But the way he showers, like I'm reminded of the incident from the Mahabharata. Draupadi, she's being disrobed in an open court and nobody is able to save her. She calls out Krishna. And at that time, what does Krishna do? He thinks, what did Draupadi do for me? And then he remembers once when I was cutting something, I snicked my finger, it began to bleed. And Rukmini, Satyabhama, all his wives, they all rushed. They all rushed to get Dettol, Savlon, whatever, antiseptic cream, whatever existed back then. But what did Draupadi do? She just tore her sari. Not an ordinary sari, a silk sari. When a woman tears her silk sari, you can understand that she loves that person so much. Otherwise, they don't do that. She tore her silk sari and tied Krishna's finger. And Krishna then thinks logically, he says, yes, Draupadi gave me sari. I will also give her sari. How much sari did Draupadi give? Possibly 2 inches. And what did Krishna give? A Guinness Book of World Records. 10 miles of sari. A bodybuilder like Dushasana pulled and pulled and pulled and collapsed in fatigue and dehydration. The sari did not end. That is how God's grace is. Swami says God's grace is like an insurance, a divine insurance that will help you beyond your imagination, beyond anything else in your time of need. But we need to give those 2 inches of sari. We need to do that seva. We need to do that bhajan. We need to do that sadhana. And not just personal sadhana, we need to do group sadhana together. Because Swami always said samashti, or coming together, is more important than individual sadhana. And that is why when we are in a retreat like this, it's such a wonderful feeling because we are coming together. May we be blessed by Swami to come together like this for retreats, come together like this to do seva, come together like this to do bhajans, everything. Let us kalasi melasi perugudam, kalasi melasi tirugudam. These are lines taken from a Telugu song which goes as Sai Mata Biddalam Andaram, composed by the youth from Hyderabad. It says, we are all Swami's children. And when Swami heard it, Swami said, this is my anthem. This contains the message of my life. And one important part of that song is let us work together, let us serve together, let us love together, let us do everything together. Let us do everything together, brothers and sisters. Yes, individual sadhana is important, but group sadhana is critical. It is needed because we are all part of the Vyashti. A finger alone, yes, it has to take care of itself, but it cannot survive without the body. A finger is part of the body, and the finger should never forget that. So yes, I lost my train of thoughts, but as I said, coming together and doing this is something that Swami is thrilled about. Where was I? What was I narrating? Yes, my father's treatment. And going back to the story, when the doctor said that, yes, so I called Brother Satyajit. Yes, I got back my train of thoughts. So as I was saying, for every little sacrifice we do for Swami, Swami remembers and never forgets. And he gives that to us at the time of our need. And he had given this privilege. So I whipped out my cell phone and called Brother Satyajit and told him, so this is the update, brother. Swami had said that it's nothing, but it's proved to be a heart attack and it's in a critical situation. What should I do? Brother Satyajit said, give me 5 minutes, give me 10 minutes. I'll try to see if I can talk to Swami. After 10 minutes, he calls me and he says, just listen to what I'm saying, which means don't interrupt me. Don't ask me any further questions. Swami has given me a message. I'm going to just give that message. That is the meaning. He said, no need of any surgery. Medicines are enough for your father. I said, what? He said, no need of any surgery. Medicines are enough for your father. And he cut the call. Now I'm thinking, my father has been taken in to the ICU. I mean, they're doing the cath lab procedure, angiogram. And then the doctors come out and the doctors are discussing. Now they have found blocks in some capillaries that are supplying my father's heart. It is because of that the heart had this attack. Now those capillaries that are supplying to the heart are so minute that the risk of doing the surgery is equal to the risk of not doing the surgery, because they may rupture when they do the surgery because they're such fine capillaries. So the doctors are discussing what is the next course of action, which risk must they take. Even as I heard this, I interrupted and I said, doctors, don't do surgery. They must have wondered what qualification does this guy have to tell no need of surgery. I told them, I got a message from Swami that surgery should not be done. They immediately said, oh, okay, Swami said. So they decided not to do the surgery. And I said, Swami has said medicines are enough. So they said, okay. So they prescribed some medicines. They prescribed the medicines and oh yes, I forgot one important section here, that being Gandhi Jayanti, it was a holiday. But when my father had to be taken to the cath lab, this engineer from Siemens arrived. He repaired it, and that is how my father could go into the cath lab. This is what had happened. This is what had happened. So, yes, when the Lord steps in, things just clear up so beautifully. And cutting that long story short, my father was discharged after 3 days. And then my father said, I'm going to go back to Bombay. I said, before that, I want to thank Swami. So I requested whether my father could be seated in the front lines among the devotees, and that permission was granted. But now I thought when Swami is, he's wheeled on the wheelchair, my father, he will not get up and jump and all because he's of the traditional kind. He'll just sit and have darshan. So I thought that how to, I wanted Swami to interact with my father. So I decided to sit alongside my father in the devotee section. not in the separate section that we have for staff and students. That day, as Swami came for darshan, he suddenly looked and he looked at me and said, "Hey, you're here?" I said, "Swami, not just me, my father is also here." And Swami smiled. And my father was just sitting there lost in the beauty of the darshan of Swami and all. And I was like, "Hey, Dad." I said, "Dad, you get up and come. You come here. Like Swami is waiting. You're sitting there in the meditation. What? Come." So my dad got up. Oh, he came out of his, like, he was in a kind of open-eyed meditation. Like, we usually close eyes and meditate, but he was in an open-eyed meditation. He was lost seeing Swami so close after so many years. So I had to like literally shake him out of that, and he shook up. He came out of it with a fright. Oh, I said, "Come front here, come front." And as I turned to Swami, Swami had that same expression. Swami is, Yad Bhavam Tad Bhavati. He had that same irritated expression on his face, and he said, "Hey, he's a patient. What you let him come aram se." Oh, okay, Swami. Okay, fine. You're going to wait. Okay. So my father came to him, and my father just didn't know what to say. He said, "Swami, Swami, Swami, Swami." Swami took one vibhuti packet and gave it in his hand. And then Swami said, "When Swami is in your heart, what can happen to you? Don't worry." Dear brothers and sisters, no surgery has been done. It's been 13 years now. And my father's heart has never given him any trouble. And he has complete faith. He said, "Nothing will happen," Swami has said. His faith is something that I see and admire because, my father has had all sorts of troubles, from his eyes to his kidneys to his liver to his bones to his heart. Every part of his body has had some problem or the other, but he is so fine in his faith that I feel jealous. And I say, "Swami, this is the kind of faith I want. Because that is what will keep us peaceful and happy in this world." As he nears his 70th birthday, I wish him from all my heart. And I also wish that I get faith like him. I had thought of narrating a couple more incidents because these are incidents in Swami's physical presence. Even after Swami left, these medical miracles, all sorts of miracles have kept happening. Every time a storm comes, it's like Swami's test to us, whether last time I proved you, don't tell me to prove again. Just hold on. Hold on. Mother Kunti, when Krishna, at the end of the war, everything happens, Krishna comes and he's in a giving mood. He's granting boons to everyone. He goes to Mother Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, and tells, "Tell me, what is it that you seek? I'll give you." And she says, "Krishna, if you really give me what I seek, then fill my life with troubles and troubles." And Krishna is shocked. He says, "You didn't have enough troubles in your lifetime. You're asking for more." And she says, "Krishna, you know something? Every time I had troubles in my life, I thought of you. When I was happy, I wasn't thinking of you. So Krishna, please fill my life with troubles so that I think of you always." Now that is loving Krishna's uncertainty. That is loving Swami's uncertainty. Saying, "Swami, give me anything, Swami. Bring it on, Swami, because you are with me. What is there for me to worry?" Possibly I'll conclude with just one small analogy. This was inspired in my heart by the grace of Bhagwan. When somebody asked me this question, when God is so loving, why does he even send storms in our life? Why can't he when he's so compassionate, why can't he just prevent all this from happening only? Why all this is needed? The answer that got inspired was, forget the creator, forget Swami as the creator. Let us leave him aside as the creator. Just think of something that we create. Okay. As human beings, we make movies, right? We make movies. Even if we don't make movies, we watch movies. All of us watch movies. Now, look at the range of movies we make. We make inspirational movies. We make comedies. We make tragedies. We make action-packed movies where we kill each other. We make horror movies. And my question is, how can we be so terrible that we make these movies? And when I asked this question, the answer that they gave was, "Brother, come on. This is just entertainment." Entertainment? Killing somebody is entertainment for you? Scaring the wits out of somebody, horror, that is entertainment for you? Tragedy, somebody's loss is entertainment for you? Brother, don't get emotional. Don't get emotional, brother, because all that is not real. It is not real. It's just an illusion. Nobody is dying there. Nobody is undergoing horror. Ah. The moment you know that it's an illusion, tragedy, horror, everything becomes entertainment. That is the purpose of life. Everything is just entertainment because this is unreal. Anityam asukham lokam. Everything related to this world is anityam, impermanent, asukham, not capable of granting happiness. When you know this truth, then whether it's comedy or tragedy, whether it's inspiration or horror, whether it is birth or death, everything will be an entertainment. That is what Swami had told when Professor Kasturi, once when he arrived at Prasanthi Nilayam, he saw that somebody from Swami's family, I say family in quotes because all of us are Swami's family, but yes, that physical family had passed on and they were all weeping inconsolably. He thought, he was much elder to Swami in age. He thought, I'll go and console Swami also a little bit. That no problem, Swami, it happens. But when he went and saw, he saw that Swami was smiling and beaming. And he was shocked. He felt that he had felt more sad than Swami himself. And Swami tells him, Kasturi, if there's no birth and death, how will the game go on? What entertainment will I have? Exact words that Swami said. If birth and death is not there, what entertainment will I have? Dear brothers and sisters, I would like to humbly submit that whenever we have storms in our life, whenever we have these unexpected miseries, difficulties, they're here to grant us ultimate peace and joy. Because ultimate peace and joy comes only through the realization that all this is false. And in order to achieve that realization of that truth, Swami says we need a pure mind. A mind with purity, within 11 seconds, it will get realization. Realization is nothing but completely being entrenched in this truth that all this is unreal, then nothing affects us. But for that, the prerequisite is a pure mind. And it is for that pure mind we do our sadhana, individual and group, so that all the dirt of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, all of this gets cleaned and the mind becomes pure. Swami, we pray that we have a pure mind which can reflect the truth that you keep beaming on us day in and day out. May we feel you in our heart. May we feel you everywhere surrounding us. May we see you and only you. May our love for you keep growing every passing moment. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother.
Sai Ram, yeah.
Such a beautiful segue to the retreat theme, love my uncertainty. You took a segue as love him during our storms in our lives. What a beautiful experiences you have quoted, personal and other experiences. And we would like to, would you mind taking a couple of live questions?
Yeah,
Maybe
sure.
we have time for 3 to 4 questions maximum. Yeah. Anyone who wants to go first? He can see all of you.
Yeah, I can see.
Sai Ram, brother.
Yeah, Sai Ram, yeah.
While you are on the topic of your father's health and such, I know that anxiety comes as a result of uncertainty. At a higher level, you did say sticking on to Swami is the key. Can you go one level lower and tell us the mechanics of how to deal with anxiety?
So, I mean, beautiful question. And let me say that I do this. First of all, I remind myself that Swami is the most powerful, most loving being in the universe. Because the logical mind tries to find reasons that, like even as I said recently, when this car accident happened, my mind started telling maybe you should have gone in that route. Maybe you started in a wrong time. You know, I realized that all of these explanations is based on two assumptions. One is either my Swami is not strong enough, a Rahu Kala can defeat my Swami, or a wrong road can beat my Swami. My Swami is not so powerful. He can't stop all these things. Then when I tell, hey, no, 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 my Swami is the most powerful. Where he can, no, no, no. Okay, fine. He's all powerful, but still it happened maybe because he doesn't love you. He can stop it, but he thought, who cares for this fellow? Let anything happen. No, 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 no. My Swami loves me so much. So if he's all powerful, if he's all loving, then if this has happened, he has allowed it to happen. That's all. And if he has allowed it to happen because he's all loving, it must be only for my good. That's all. This is how I beat my logical mind. Yes, the sorrow, even now my sorrow is there. When I imagine how badly battered my car is, I feel sad, but I know that it's some good reason. And every time the cause for sorrow is comparison. Swami says you shouldn't compare, but practically I feel compare with somebody worse off. What if somebody had got injuries in the car? What if somebody had died in the car? What if something worse could have happened? I do this at a practical level. It helps comparing yourself with somebody who is lesser off. And believe me, in the world, everybody has so many problems. And once this is done, and I tell the logical mind that actually you've got the logic, now just shut up, so that it doesn't disturb me anymore, I start chanting Sai Gayatri. Keep chanting Sai Gayatri. For me, Sai Gayatri is the best. Keep thinking of Swami. Keep chanting Sai Gayatri. Keep reading his book. I mean, fill myself with Swami. Because Swami is all positivity. He is the generator. Never runs out of electric current. And believe me, dear brothers and sisters, if we take one step towards him, he takes 100. I don't know about how that problem will resolve. It might resolve in a few hours, in a few days, in a few weeks, maybe few years, or never get resolved the way we are thinking. But we will find peace in our heart. We will be calm. It's okay. You realize, oh, okay, and you get calm. You get back that Swami will 100% give, because that is the magic of his name. That is the miracle of his form. And we are lucky to have his name and form both. We know how he looks. We know, we know his name. So this effort we do for an hour or so. And when we do it wholeheartedly, feeling Swami. I just imagine Swami sitting by my side and telling, Bangaru, don't worry. I'm in charge. You're in charge. No, that's Chandan. Okay, Swami. Really, I'm telling you, because so many, like recently also, so many things like this have hit me, but it hits me only for about an hour or so, because after that I say, no, what am I doing? Look back at every time something Swami has done. Based on that, hold on.
Beautiful answer. Hope you got your answer for that one. We'll go with some
Sairam.
understanding.
Sairam, Aravind, I'm Raviraj Nasi.
How are you, uncle? Yes.
Yes, I don't want to
Good to see you.
tell what is our relationship since your childhood, but very honest to you, for the first time I'm hearing your beautiful speech. What a English, and maybe after Anil Kumar, you will be the next ambassador to Bhagwan's institution, and I'm highly impressed. My quick question, Arvind, that I know since last many years you went to Shanti Nilayam, and what really felt you since a couple of time and many interviews with family interviews with students, you had an opportunity to see Swami. What really one incident made you crazy for Bhagwan, and that you realized there that Swami is a God?
I must say that honestly, I really don't know. Like, ever since I've been a child, I have known Swami as God. Like, if people ask why is Ganesha God or why is Shiva God, you don't know. Like, from childhood you have learned that is God. So like that only I learned that Swami was God. But I think one of the key roles to be played was by my mother. My mother kept telling that Aravind, Swami is this, Swami is this. Anything happens, pray to Swami. Swami is your mother, Swami is your father. The way, because as children, Matradevo Bhava, mother is first God, then father is next God. When your mother is telling you this, you just believe it. That's it. And with that, and there's no doubt also. For an adult mind possibly gets doubt. That's why possibly it's called adulterated. It's not called child rated. It's called adulterated because only adults' minds get like that. So as a child's mind, I just took that as the satyam. Oh, okay, Swami is everything. And with that full conviction, I prayed. There's a very famous story of how a boy comes and tells his mother he's scared to go to school because he has to cross a forest. And his mother tells you, call your brother. Your brother's name is Gopal. And she prays. And that boy, in so much of belief and faith, he calls that Krishna actually comes and, takes him across the forest. And after that experience, that boy knows that, Krishna will come every time I call. In fact, I feel right now, my faith is possibly lesser than what it was back then as a child, because my mother told me this is God. He will take care of you completely. So any problem I had, I would cry and tell Swami, and Swami would simply solve it. Every problem. And I just felt, yeah, man, awesome. It's only when I grew bigger, I began, oh, Swami may not sometimes, his uncertainty is there. All these doubts, all these things started coming in the adulterated mind. But in a child's mind, it was so beautiful. And I'm really grateful to my parents. And I think that is the responsibility of all the parents over here, that at a young age, as young as possible, this is the greatest gift we can give. More than leaving behind money for them, more than leaving behind education and all that. No, invest in the children this love for God. And that is not by just telling. We have to exhibit that. We have to exhibit that calmness and faith in Swami. And trust me, even to this day, my mother, I go and express my gratitude when I fall at her feet. I tell her that the first and foremost thing I'm grateful to you is who told me to have this faith in Swami. And to my father as well, I tell that because he's the one who introduced Swami to our family. I tell him that the greatest gift you have given us is Swami. So from that is the reason why it automatically came and I became mad. And after that, Swami kept stoking. It's all his grace. He built the fire into a big flame. And as I said, he used to call me mental hospital also. I feel very happy. Yes, Swami, I want to be mad. So yeah, I think that is a thing for all the parents also over here. Yeah.
Sairam, we'll take one last question from anyone from the ladies' side. Okay. Yeah.
Can I speak in Hindi? It's okay.
हाँ, आप जरूर हिंदी में बोलिए.
Because हिंदी में मैं क्वेश्चन ठीक से पूछ सकूंगी.
ठीक है.
सभी बोलते हैं कि अच्छे कर्म करो तो वैकुंठ जाते स्वर्ग में. मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ, सच्ची स्वर्ग है क्या ऊपर?
अभी आंटी जी मैं भी नहीं जानता हूँ, क्योंकि मैं भी नहीं गया हूँ. मैं क्या होता है मैं नहीं जानता हूँ. लेकिन हमेशा ना, मतलब मुझे लगता है कि स्वर्ग कोई ऐसा.
English, I mean, I know English, but I can't.
Okay.
English very well.
Yeah. So what I feel is heaven is a state of being and a state of mind. Because Swami would give the example in Dharma Vahini. This is one of my favorite examples. I have read the whole Dharma Vahini, but somehow only this and two things have remained in my head. Where Swami says, people say that Satya Yuga is very good, Dwapar Yuga little less. I mean Treta Yuga little less. Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga worse, and Kali Yuga is the worst. So, but Swami says, but if you look at Satya Yuga, there was Prahalada. And who was Prahalada's father? Hiranyakashipu. Swami says, it was Satya Yuga for Prahalada, but it was the worst and worst Yuga for Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu had only anger, madness, frustration, irritation, and finally death. So Swami says, it is not the Yuga that determines Dharma. It is, you cannot say this is Kali Yuga, so everything is bad. No, it is not Yuga that decides the Dharma, but it is the Dharma that decides the Yuga. So for Prahalada, it was Satya Yuga, but for Hiranyakashipu, it was Kali Yuga. So too, in this so-called Kali Yuga, when we practice Dharma, it becomes the golden age. We all say the golden age is coming, the golden age is coming. Possibly the golden age is not like some global everybody, not like that. It is for each one of us. So I feel in the same way when we say heaven. Now, once I remember asking Professor Anil Kumar sir, do you believe in life after death? And he said, I believe in life before death. Let us live our life before death so well, you know. So, so forget about going to heaven after we die. We can bring heaven on earth even now, you know, because that is what happens. You know, they say Satatam Yoginaha, eternal yogi. What is an eternal yogi? Unaffected by anything. I have seen some beings. My own father, I see like that. You know, he's totally unaffected. When he gets some problem, I get affected more. Absolutely unaffected. Absolutely calm. I feel so jealous of him, and I feel he's living in a heaven only. For everything, he tells, "Oh, Swami's grace." He had one kidney stone, and then his BP went up, and his sugar shot high, and they said they can't do surgery. He said, "Oh, Swami's grace." I was like, "What? What on earth are you telling that? How is this Swami's grace?" I couldn't understand. I said, Swami, he got a kidney stone, that's okay. Because they said they'll do surgery and remove. This was 2012, after Swami had left physically. Okay, Swami, that is okay, fine. After that, Swami, why did you have to make his BP and sugar and all go up, Swami? It was all normal. I'm asking Swami why he did, because it was all normal. It was very much under control. Though he's a BP patient, and imagine he's a BP patient, he's a sugar patient. It was all normal, and exactly when they did the test, it went up, and they said for next 1 month we can't do the surgery. And with that stone, my father used to suffer in pain. 3 days I saw him, you know, and I used to wonder, Swami, why? Okay, you gave the stone, that's okay, but why this report? And I would tell my father in that pain, no, my father would say, no, all Swami's grace. What Swami's grace? But you know, after 3 days, the pain went off. No pain, nothing. And like that, one full 40 days passed. After that, we went for the test. And it was an Argentinian doctor, I remember. There was a 1 centimeter stone. You know, 1 centimeter feels small on our rulers and scales. But as a stone, it's a boulder rock, you know, because the ureter pipes are very small. So 1 centimeter stone was there, and the doctor said there's nothing. There were 10 stones. The biggest one was 1 centimeter. And the doctor said, did you pass them out? And my father doesn't remember anything. And then he comes out and he says, see, Aravind, see Swami's grace. Swami wanted to save me from surgery. That's why he made my blood pressure and sugar go high that day. See, even when my BP and sugar goes up, no, it is Swami's love. Swami loves us so much. And when I see that, wow, he's already in heaven. He's in heaven because he is happy every time. I've never seen him cry. Very rarely. He cries only when we have some fights between us, you know, in the family. That time my father feels sad. Otherwise, I never see him sad. Wow. So forget of going to Vaikuntha after death. But yes, that is what it is. And Swami has said that your thoughts at the last moment determine what your next birth is. And there's that famous story of Ajamila who led his life in a very bad manner, but he had a son called Narayana. It is there in the Bhagavatam. He had a son called Narayana, and he said, Narayana, because when he was dying, when he saw the Yamadutas coming, those scary people, he called out to his son Narayana. But because that's the Lord's name, Narayana Dutas came and they say they took him to Vaikuntha. Okay. Meaning he got a good birth or he found salvation. Swami says, but don't let that confuse you into thinking that I will lead my life in a nonsensical manner. And when I'm dying, I'll anyway think of Swami. Because Swami gives an example of another person who named 4 sons. There's a Chinnakatha. He named his 4 sons as Rama, Krishna, Govinda, and Narayana. He thought not just one, any one of them at least I'll call, no leather. And when he was dying, he called out Rama, Krishna, Govinda, Narayana. And Swami says, when he called out, all 4 came running. And then he said, you idiots, if all of you come running, who is going to take care of the shop? Oh, and then he died. So Swami said he was a shopkeeper. He had to take birth again as shopkeeper. Because you know what you do throughout your life, it's like running an Olympic race. How to win a 100 meters dash? Very simple. Run very fast for 10 seconds. But to run very fast for those 10 seconds, you need a lifetime of preparation. When Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the father of the nation in India, was shot, 2 bullets in his chest. Blood was spurting out everywhere. Everybody was screaming and shouting. He said, Hey Ram, Hey Ram, Hey Ram. How on earth did you remember Ram in that scenario? Because all his life he has been saying, Hey Ram. If I want to remember Sai Ram when I'm dying, and if I want to get Vaikuntha or Kailasa or whichever, whatever, basically a place of peace and happiness, where nothing affects my peace, nothing affects my happiness. I need to practice that lifelong. How I lead my life, that's how I will die. Nothing will affect me. Nothing will affect, even if it's a cancer, if it's whatever, nothing will affect. I'll be peaceful. So I think this Vaikunt, Kailas and all is something we need to achieve even before death itself. If we achieve that in life, naturally after death also, that's where we'll be.
Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Sairam, Brother Ravi. I think answering her question, you brought heaven here actually. You created this place as a heaven with your answers. And I don't want to take a lot of time of everyone here and give a summary of this one, but from your talk, what I understood is life is a combination of storms and God's name. And if you focus on the God's name, storms will vanish. But when you have storms in your life, you focus on the storms, God will vanish. So its choice is ours, what you do it. And this is the basic information take from you. I may be wrong, but I'm really loud for talk. Thanks a lot for spending this much time with you during your precious time at home. Despite of the accident and whatever is happening in your life there in that place, you still have God name on your lips, in our minds. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that one.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really grateful. Loved this. I loved it. It's my own sadhana. It benefits me. Yes.
And at the same time, on behalf of everyone who is present here and who is not present here from this region, we would love to see you in person very soon.
He will.
You know what, actually, we sent our request to him first before approaching you. So he'll take
Awesome.
care of it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sai Ram.